Alright, with the Powerhead all nice and assembled, it's now time to do the finishing touches, if you will. So I'm going to install the exhaust tubes, the water grommet, seal, all the other related parts. Now you have the option to completely assemble the Powerhead and then install it, but I'm just going to install it raw and then attach all the electronics and the carburetor and everything. So I have the seal here that came out of the Powerhead kit, and they recommend to do is coat the outside of it with gasket sealing compound. So I went ahead and did that. Now the seal lip faces up. The one I took out of here was installed the other way, which was a little odd because it didn't look like it really been messed with before, but it sure had. Alright, found myself a framing hammer. I have one of the copperhead hammers in here somewhere, but I have no idea where it went. So, I have my seal installer tool, which is a 21mm socket. You can buy the actual tool, but this works fine. Make sure it's nice and straight in there, which that looks pretty perfect. Actually, that side looks a little up. So now we look okay. Now, I'm going to put some of this goop, the sealing compound, on the O-ring, just for safe measures. And install the O-ring onto our crankcase head, like so. Now we can fit that to our Powerhead, like so. Get our hardware. Alright, that is on installed. Now it is time for the water tube grommets. Now, if you've never done this before, consider yourself lucky. I don't consider it easy by any means. Now these stupid little things are like $9 each, so keep that in mind. Don't really mess them up. So there is a lip inside of that seal, which I don't think you're ever going to be able to see. Anywho, it's similar to the water thermostat. So that lip needs to go over that. So you think easy enough? No, it's really not. I mean, the lip of this thing is pretty much the exact same size. That is a lot of forcing, and this rubber isn't exactly pliable. I mean, it is, don't get me wrong, but it's not soft. So I'll give one a shot. Maybe it'll go easy. No. All right, time to get some grease. Alright, I gave up after a few seconds looking for grease when I found this stuff. Some 3-in-1 oil. Let's go ahead and put some of that in there and hope for the best. Oh yeah, that did it. Although now my gloves are all slippery and I can't push it up anymore. And voila. Actually, it wasn't that bad. Maybe last time I did one, I was just, I had an old one or a stiff one or something. I had no idea. But that didn't seem too bad at all. Yeah, could have been a different type for all I know. Alright, as you can see, installing the water tube grommets is a piece of cake. So now I'll go ahead and install the water tubes onto the exhaust tube. So, in case you're wondering what I did to this, is I sandblasted it and painted it Evinrude propeller black. just because, no reason at all. My theory here is that the paint, the carbon buildup won't stick to it as much. Probably going to stick better, but you know, it looks good for now. Now, the inside is still disgusting, of course. Anywho, so this little stop sports the longer water tube, so pretty easy to tell which one goes where. Oh, I've also already cleaned the gasket surfaces so I don't hurt the grommets. So, let's kind of rotate her on in there. And just kind of sits like so. The same thing for the back. So, it's sticking out of here up top, but when you install it, all it's going to do is kind of crush this water tube grommet down on inside and seal up just fine. So now I'll get the Powerhead gasket, install it on the bottom, and bolt this guy on. Our gasket set comes with two different gaskets. We have the squarey version here and the angled weird version here. I think this is for the newer engines out of the 90s. This engine's out of the 80s, so this is what we need. I'll go ahead and toss that in my never use again drawer. This already has some sticky sealer to it. So don't really think there's a need to apply much more. But before I install this, I will, of course, as you probably guess. Alright, that is installed. Now we're just about ready to install this back onto the exhaust housing. Do yourself a favor and install the fuel line before you put on the Powerhead. So this is an Evinrude fuel line. I don't know the part number, but that's what it looks like. It's got some nylon inners, cloth outers. This stuff's like $5 a foot, but lasts for quite a while. It doesn't deteriorate. I think it's worth it. So I like using these type of hose clamps. I have a special set of hose clamp pliers. Goes inside, opens them up. Makes it real easy to use. And these things, well, they came with the motor, so they're already, I don't know, 20-something years old, so they'll work fine. So I'll go ahead and install that onto the fuel connector. Alright, as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a remote controlled engine, so that's why I have the controller harness already installed in the body of this thing. I've already tapped the holes for the mounts, so keep that in mind. Now I'll go ahead and install the fuel line. As you can see, those pliers make it pretty easy. So all we're going to do is loop it around like so. That should give us enough room to get the Powerhead on there. What we need now is some Permatex number 2. Some of this stuff. So, where we're going to put that, it's right here on the bottom. That will seal the crankcase head on the body of the thing, in theory, eliminating some exhaust gases from entering the crankcase. See that forwardmost hole down there? That's where our main water tubes needs to go. Just so you know when you put this thing in there. Now, on the base of each one of these mounts is going to get a washer. I can't put the washers on first and expect them to stay, so they'll fall right off. So I'm going to lower the Powerhead onto where it needs to go, and then worry about getting the washers back inside of there. So, go ahead and grab my Powerhead, line the water tube, and slide it on in. Now at that point, bring the fuel line up to where I want it to go. And just fight with it a little bit and try to figure out why it's not sliding down. Alright, Powerhead is sitting properly onto the body of the thing. My water indicator grommet fell out. Snap that guy back in. So now, I'll go ahead and hunt down all the grommet hardware and install those. Here's the hardware that attaches to the Powerhead. We got 6 screws. If you notice, 4 of them are short, 2 are long. The 2 longmost ones go in the rear of the Powerhead. So I'll install those first, then I'll show you where the other 4 go. Alright, my Powerhead is installed. I have a screw here, here, and here that I tighten down. And on the opposite side, keep in mind, long screws in the back, there, and there. Now, this one also has a ground strap. Could be because it's an electric start motor, or it could just be something we all have, but now it's time to install the lower hood mount. Here's the rubber mount that goes into the cylinder head. So, that's what it looks like. It has a little metal bushing on top. The other 2 fell out, so I need to install these 2 as well. So how this is going to get mounted, so the washer is going to go on the top screw. Small washer then follows. Then it goes the mount. Another small washer. And another big washer, and then that entire setup gets installed in the lower pan. So I'm going to do that for each, well, I'm going to do that for all 3 mounts. So those lower washers I mentioned really aren't too hard to get in there. So what you do is you kind of stack them in there ready to go. And just kind of eyeball about where they need to go. Then you just get a punch, put it in the center, wiggle it around, and that pretty much well aligns it. So then you just assemble your next little setup with some anti-seize on the end of the screw. Put the bushing in. Followed by our mount. Let's wiggle the screw around a little, and it catches. Now get a wrench and tighten all of them down. And our Powerhead is pretty much installed. Obviously we still got a lot of work to do. We got to rebuild the carburetor, the fuel pump, install the ignition system, flywheel, new water pump, reseal the gear case, paint it, put it all back together. But we're making some good progress. So I went ahead and clamped the ground strap to where it goes. So I wrote this little so you can see how it attaches. That's for the remote start engine versions. Fuel lines hanging there. I routed the rest of everything else too, such as the stop switch back here and the power lines where they need to go. This one is the battery charging line. The main one is the feed for the starter. This is the choke, and then there's a blue wire in there too for accessories. But anyway, so that's the end of this video. Hope you found it helpful. If you got any questions, please let me know, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.